Happy Monday, everyone. Happy Monday. Live. Market Vitals, the show. Miss Trade, Matt Debio, HFR, the Bobbert, Heffernan. Matt, happy Monday to you. As everything's fine. We've survived the Omicron job variant. Apparently, it's all a cron job. But supposedly it's going to take a couple of weeks to figure out if we've actually survived the cron job. Right now,
well, our esteemed leader said, "Don't worry, get more boosters." That's all he said.
Well, it seemed like it was another ploy by the marketing department.
I think it was, but they didn't like what happened on Friday, so they kind of called it off over the weekend.
Now they're going to try to slow play it.
Yeah, you saw it play out. You're like, they don't. The market was down 500 points. Oh shit! Don't do that.
Well, if you're a long-term bear,
Fauci was on Meet the Press, Face the Nation, laughing at everybody, saying science, science. She blinded me, Thomas Dolby.
She blinded me. All right, Matt, so much going on. Let's get into a little bit of it. We thought we had some inside info to get into the courtroom because apparently nobody can go in the courtroom. I don't know. I mean, all
federal cases can't be televised.
They can't be televised?
Yeah. But they can put it on an audio stream, but I don't know,
I tried, Matt. I tried this and got no. Maxwell on trial for nefarious activities with I did not hang myself, Jeffrey Epstein. And apparently there is so much going on here. The judge, the prosecutor, so many ties to what we would call the entrenched deep state. So will truth be told? And then you see, the redactions of things because it's too sensitive for our ears at this point. It's beyond belief. Like what? I mean, you can televise people running people over in cars.
I mean, right? It's literally point blank. It's literally almost like gulag legal system. Yeah, you're guilty. You're not guilty.
I don't know. I don't get to decide though with my own eyes, which is troublesome. Mm-hmm. Matt, this was incredibly great news out of the Babylon Bee because no longer will we have to know there's a new variant because the Wuhan lab is going to let white smoke out to signal a new variant.
Just like
has been found and named.
Just like the Cardinals decide the new Pope. I gotcha.
And we're going to get to price discovery, believe me.
I think that came from the Vatican. I think that was their suggestion. Why don't we just use blue, white smoke to signal the next one?
Along on the COVID tack of thoughts here, Gavin Newsom, salesperson of the year for U-Haul, as the irony in politics is beyond belief. As he's jabbing kids and mandating it, yet the biggest union that supports him, he's worked out a deal where they don't need to get the jab. I mean, it seems all up and up to me. I don't know. I have a hard time in today's world figuring out what is actually fair, right, and just. I saw a documentary last night on the Gettysburg Address, a beautiful 272-word address to the nation, by the people, of the people, for the people. Seems to be something that we've shied away from recently. But anyway, Matt, let's look at U-Haul stock because it had a COVID miracle.
I want to first say that this is not something I trade, and I wouldn't recommend you trade it unless you got really deep pockets and nothing else to do with your money, because it's a slow trader. It trades on average 44,000 shares a day. So again, they're calling up, do you have a market on this, pig? But what it has done is absolutely astronomical. And you start looking at like the weekly and the monthly chart. I think this is the story, right? This just shows you what has happened. And I think it'll lead into your talking about how much in IPOs have come public. We've got something on that subject next. But this kind of shows like there's so much money sloshing around that it's got to go somewhere. And it's crazy, Bob, because 200 all the way up here to nearly 800. So 4-bagger. They don't make money. It's market cap of 14 billion. It's a shitty business. So, again,
Do they not make money and they don't pay a dividend?
well, they don't pay a dividend. They may, I don't know. I mean, I don't even see earnings on this chart, so I can't speak to it. I'm trying to find it here.
I agree with it. There we go. We had earnings.
Let's see. They reported again 1.64 billion, so a lot of movement last year. The beat on sales on the quarter. They are making $5 surprise on the earnings. So yeah, they did make money because everybody was moving around from the cities to the burbs and to the mountain towns, right? That's what happened in the last 2 years. But how are you going to beat these numbers from where you are? Those are huge numbers, by the way. If they're actually earning $20 a share and not paying a dividend, why are you holding the stock, for God's sake? Wow, that's crazy. That would be reason enough to dump it if you've been fortunate enough to hold that pig. Because again, look at the long term. This is a monthly chart. This thing typically trades around $25 for years and years. This is 95. It didn't go anywhere for 15, 20 years. Then it took off, during the financial crisis, which makes sense. Based again, sold off during the COVID, halfway back here to 220, and now it's trading, upwards 720, got up to 770 or so. But that's parabolic. I mean, look at the steepness on that chart. But again, I don't trade it, just throwing it out because we're talking about how funny it is with everybody leaving California with Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, how did that happen?
What?
I went away and I now I got to try to not bring in the I got to tell you, I got to call in the production crew and we need to talk seriously about our production value on this fucking show. All right, Matt, listen, I got to give you some time here. It's been so long. It's been so long. I mean, it's been so long that you've actually even, sinned. I'll call it a sin, but by trying to say that Michigan is a basketball school, when in your heart, deep down in the inner reaches, when you're alone at night in the dark under your covers, Michigan's a football school and always has been. And what a great game. And Aiden Hutchinson.
Just a total domination on both sides of the line. The big boy football was back. We made Ohio State look like Oregon, and Oregon made Ohio State look like Oregon. So there you go.
Any other thoughts on it?
It was great. Aiden Hutchinson, he beat his dad's school record. He broke that early in the second quarter and went on to smash it. And his odds now, he's the third highest odds getter on the Heisman Trophy. And after the performance that, both Stroud and the guy from Alabama put up, they're the leaders, right? But I mean, you can make an argument that without him on this team, the team doesn't do so well. So that's really what the Heisman is about, is without that player, can your team win and perform it the way they did? So just like Charles Woodson back in the 98 or 97, 98 Heisman, it's kind of the same thing. Now, Woodson was also somewhat of an offensive player that year, but it's very difficult to argue against what Hutchinson and Ojibo did on bookends of that line. Those two guys are both going to be fantastic Sunday players in the NFL. And what it did for Michigan, the recruits that they had in the house for that energy, and that was a full 4 hours of just on fire, that crowd. I commend them because it's not always like that in Michigan, but the team played so well and the fans fed off. It was, they were both feeding off each other. It was a frenzy. You could just feel it. Michigan led from the get-go. They kind of gave it up there in the second quarter, but did not roll over, and then pulled away to 16. And you were feeling, are we going to do the whole Michigan State thing again? Are we going to have some weird ref things going on? But it didn't happen. And it was a well-called game. There was chippy levels on both sides, but Ohio State got straight out punked. It was great. The arrogance of the Ohio State, whatever that means. That's total marketing. When did "the" get added? 1992, after Earl Bruce, and they were getting spanked by Michigan every year. Listen, 20 years of Ohio State domination is over. It's over.
I got to tell you, I mean, I had the same thought. My same thought process was, wow, that was not only was that impressive, but I thought the exact same thing. The recruiting side, like
Like,
the snow, the atmosphere. Obviously, you went there. It's a beautiful campus.
yeah,
It's got
you,
so much tradition and history. Like, how do you not want to be there? And then the game after it was Minnesota, who, congratulations, and
yeah.
PJ Fleck's doing a great job there. But like, where would you rather play? In Minnesota, in front of 42,000 people or whatever that miniature stadium holds,
Right.
or Michigan. I mean, how is that even a choice between the top recruits?
No, and really what happens is when you see top performers at your position. So like Michigan nailed, they got two new defensive linemen who were like, 5-stars after that game because they saw two defensive linemen that are going to be All-Americans. And they're like, we got to replace these guys. Of course we want to come here. I mean, so when you just look at like what they do for the players that are there, they're going to be number 1 draft picks in the top rounds. And, offensive linemen, same thing. And so if you're honestly, it's so huge. The skill players follow the line. It really does work that way. And if you have guys that can block for you, and then if you've got linemen like that, and Michigan really doesn't have a linebacking core, like if you're objective about your position and you're a linebacker, you're like, shit, I can make this team the second level of defense. They don't have a linebacker over 225 pounds at Michigan. Ojibo is basically playing D line, and he's a linebacker. He pretty much lines up. They kind of play a 4-3, right? So that's kind of their defense. It's not a 3-4, and then he kind of steps up. So it's almost like a 4-2-5. Really is what they play. They really play with kind of two safety like linebackers. So again, you think about what you can pick up, and then the skill players are going, wow, Haskins, look at that guy. Just run, he got 5 touchdowns. He's gone next year. He's going pro. He's a senior. So the running back's like, I want to step in and be that guy. Like if you're that guy and you want to play for the best teams, where do you want to go? You want to go where there's an opening. You want to go where there's been success and a proven track record. And that's what this year did, like from beginning to end. And you finally have, I think, this 6th year, and it takes time. And I think this is something for programs to look at outside of Michigan. You can't flip coaches in less than 4 years. It's just, you're never going to catch up. You can't have a 4-year coaching carousel and expect to be a winning program. You have to have, you're going to make a bet on a coach. You better bet on him for 10 years. That's just the way it's going to have to work, I think. I mean, and honestly, I think Michigan State giving Mel Tucker that 10-year deal is perfect. It's a good example of that. In 2 years, the guy's won a lot of, he didn't win that many last year, but he beat Michigan twice. And if you can do that from a Michigan State perspective, sign the guy for 10 years. It's a smart move. I get it.
All right, Matt, congratulations.
Oh, thanks, Bob.
We have in the news.
But Michigan is a basketball school, and we do have North Carolina on tap this Wednesday. So be on the alert for that.
Right on. Open mic is back on Wednesday. Hey, Matt, Twitter, Jack saying goodbye. I actually read his letter to the Twitter employees. He posted it on Twitter. And I kind of agreed with some of the stuff that he said. Like, you're the founder, you're going to stay on the board and like be this, the oversight committee. Come on, let the guy do what he wants to do and what he can do. But of course, the beautiful thing about Twitter is the shit that you say on Twitter, it's out there forever, right? Somebody has screenshotted it or something. And so this was from 2010. Parag, I don't know if he wants to address it, but basically what people are finding at fault with big tech is this exact quote, because it implies that I get to be the arbiter of truth. And so he says, if you're going to distinguish between Muslims and extremists, then why should I distinguish between white people and racists? It's a pretty good quote for today's world, because there's white supremacy is so in the news that you'd think every white person is a white supremacist. The picture they're trying to paint anyway, from my point of view. I think closer to the truth, though, is people don't want tech oligarchs to decide what we get to read and decide. And so that going forward was going to be the challenge that has been for these tech companies and will continue to go forward. Anyway, let's look at the stock because we say it all the time. Who gives a shit what I think?
Yeah, so the stock, and I'm going to start right here. Matter of fact, just as we came on, the stock went red for the day. So it was up 10% and it's given it all back. But I want to start with kind of a big picture. This is a daily chart. It's been as high as 81, currently trading 47. So it's been halved. Another reason why Jack probably needed to go, and the market knew this. So yeah, the market's been selling off. Probably the news has been rumbling for some time. They were interviewing, et cetera, there at Twitter. So the market was way ahead of the news. So it's not now. If we had been trading at 81, we would probably be cut in half. But we, because there would have been a surprise there. But clearly, people in the know knew. So short term, what happened? Well, we had this spike right away. We had this huge gap. Just pent up demand for nobody has been buying this stock. They bought it for a little bit, but it didn't last, Bob, and we're right back to where we were. So indecision is where we are. People, the fundamentalists aren't sure what to think about this news, is how I read it. It'll take a few days. We're red by a quarter here. Typically, when a CEO of a positive company leaves, but I think there's going to be a lot. I mean, I would not want to be the new CEO. I think these guys are going to come up to a ton more defamation suits, and just like you said, the freedom of information piece is going to come into play. The banning of people and throwing people off. They're going to have to pay out some money here as they get sued. I see that coming. So I don't see this as being necessarily all green to go. I would still have big just looking at the chart tells you it's broken, not time to buy it. And I would wait, for me and my money, it bounced on, kind of the top of the value area, but this thing can go easily down to the teens. So,
I mean, I love that chart right there because you have to look at the full perspective of it.
Yep.
And the full perspective of it is, there's a lot more meat to the profile at lower pricing.
And they missed earnings again. They didn't, even with everybody having time to waste on Twitter, and but it's also become a shit show. Everybody's just squawking at each other. Nobody listens. They just blah, blah, blah. Right. I mean,
And the greatest is, I get to not, if it's not mainstream media, I don't have to listen to what your source is. Right. As if back to the drawing board. Yep. Great articles this today out by Jason Whitlock along those lines. Highly recommend him and his writing. Matt, the clown show, let's just spend just a little bit of time on the clown show. Let me host if I can.
Sorry.
Or co-host. And let me share this little bit because I took it from hold on a second. There we go. And this is from I don't want to do that. And I press the wrong buttons all the time. This comedian canceled by venue for inappropriate jokes. I mean, when comedy gets canceled for jokes that hurt my feelings, we got a shit show going on. And this I don't know this kid's comedy, but his infamous tour, he was booked in this Toronto, Canada venue, Matt, definitely. But when they got a look at his comedy, they say, hold on, I got to find it because it turns, they said, we don't want your show because you have inappropriate humor. And so what he did was he found another hall with more seats and sold a bunch more tickets, sold out in 7 minutes, or sold out in an hour. And in Toronto, the same town.
So the guy who originally booked it said, I don't want the money. And somebody else came in, free market, and said, I'll take it gladly.
It says, and I love his quote. It turns out the great people of Toronto enjoy some inappropriate jokes. Like censorship, it's everywhere. It's everywhere and nonstop. Anyway, just wanted to share that little bit. All right, Matt. Next up, if you thought your food prices were going to level off, this chart might beg to differ. Now, let's talk about it just a little bit, and we're going to look at the grains and cattle and hogs. But ammonia prices through the roof, making new all-time highs. And that's a giant input cost for growing grain. Ammonia is a fertilizer. But the thing that I noticed about this chart is, for the most part, it's the increase in food costs that drive ammonia prices, right? If as food prices go up, it's more lucrative to grow more grain. If you're going to grow more acreage, do more planting, you need more fertilizer. So the demand for ammonia is driven by higher food prices, i.e. more planting. But this is completely upside down. And I don't know what to make of it. Like, for sure, they have to pass part of this increase in cost because it's an input cost. But so I guess what I'm saying is it has to have an effect on food prices. I just don't know the correlation and how it will work out when ammonia is
dog wagging the tail, or tail wagging the dog. It's a good question. I don't follow it close enough.
But when you look at that, when you look at where food prices are, agricultural commodity prices and ammonia prices, the chart has never looked like that ever. And we could say that about, an infinite amount of things just about in the world, how it's never looked like this before.
Right. At a minimum, I would expect food to come up at least half of that move, and whatever that is,
exactly
on the right scale. But again, and what is the agricultural commodity that they're talking about? Do you have a symbol there or anything?
I'm not sure that people, it's anhydrous ammonia, and that's what
no. But for the total commodities chart, obviously that you're looking, the agricultural commodities. What was that? I didn't catch that. I don't know if you did either, so I just thought
I'm not sure, but let me just look for a second and see if he has it on another chart. Otavio Costa. We've used this stuff before.
I'm not sure.
Dollar DBA ETF, DBA agricultural commodities.
Oh, it's just the what is it? What color is it? The white is DBA. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Well,
we can bring it up.
Yeah, I can bring it up and take a look at it. That's not a problem.
That's how we do it here at Market Vitals. We have a conversation.
It's had a nice run. Again, it was down here, during the COVID lows, 13. It's up here at 21. I don't know what is part of this ETF, but it's at a high. So if that chart, is what it says on the right scale there, or the left scale, does it show a price of around 20 bucks?
Well, you're going to have to go out to the weekly because it's, I'm sure that's fairly current.
Yeah, here's a monthly chart. It's as far back as I can go, and that goes back to, what is this, 2007. So it's been trading it's been on a downtrend. So yeah, this is kind of, there's your chart right there, right? You can see the same chart. There's your left side. Here's your next move. So there it is. So we found the chart, and yeah, I mean, why not go to balance, which is, for the period that this has been open, 15 years almost, $26. I mean, that's another 30%. Why not? That's, and like I said, that seems to make a lot of sense. And then possibly up to the 30s. We can see that number again. We haven't seen that. But as typical, so many ETFs just go to trade at zero. I mean, they're just junky products. So that's the danger. I don't know what is held in the DBA and the Invesco. It trades 1 million shares a day. So it's fairly liquid for an agricultural ETF. That's for sure. It's as a hedge. And it's had a nice move, really since last summer when it was down here at $13. So it's up, it's up a solid 60-70% from there already, which is what your chart shows also.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right, Matt.
Couple things, let's take a look at the NASDAQ, because it just traded back to 16.4, and don't forget where we were on, and I want to bring up this chart. This is a monthly chart, but I want to bring in a more of a short-term chart to show today. So here's where we were Thursday night.
Pull it up. Don't see it.
Okay. Sorry about it. So here's where we were Thursday night, 16,438. We kind of rallied. Remember Wednesday, we sold off a little bit, and then we rallied overnight, and then they just crushed them. They kind of rallied on Turkey Day, and then they sold them off at midnight. So those things started selling right around the midnight hour, and they went all the way down, Bob, to, as you know, 15 below 16,000. Monster move, right? And now we've recovered the entire amount. Thin market Friday, another thin market today. Again, if you, as we said on Friday, if you're short this market, take the profits, for God's sakes, because this new, it's news driven clearly. But what I find is interesting is the 50% retrace is right here, right about where we are. And the 61 is also just above us at about 470. And that's also the 470 is where we broke down on this day. So there's some key levels here. And again, if you were fortunate enough to buy this, even this morning at 16,200, you got $200 of the 338. Okay. It obviously closed down at the lows, and it just has gapped and trapped anybody that went home short. And you remember, we talked about this on Friday. Marty Armstrong said he's buying it. He was absolutely right. So, and there's actually,
to be honest, they gave you a chance last night, yesterday afternoon on the Asian opening to when it didn't gap lower.
Yeah.
I mean, I just covered okay. And I was actually graceful that it didn't gap higher on that Sunday night opening.
Yeah, well, it did.
I was getting out either way.
It did gap up. a
little bit. I mean, you still could have got out for.
Yeah, I mean, this is the open right here. I mean, it went from whatever, we closed at, what was it? Right around 16,000, I think. So yeah, they basically gapped up to, they were up 100 points or so, but that 130 is better than 390, which is another $260 for sure. But again, that was, if you bought that, good for you. And now you've got two legs. Here's your first leg, the Sunday leg, and here's the opening market leg. I think we're done now. I think, it's going to have a hard time. I don't see us going over 470 today. We'll need more information price-wise, information-wise. And that's what I always say. Like today, it's pretty easy. I can't tell you what's going to happen the rest of the week today. But this overhang, to me, just all we did is come back into the meat of the profile. And this is, again, a 1 month look. So really indecision 500. And, again, multiple, uptrends that have been broken. The profile is heavy in here. It's going to be really, after you go up 400 points, it's hard to go up again. So
yeah, who's jumping in now?
I mean, it's a monster move. And what changed in NASDAQ stocks? Nothing. Well, it's Cyber Monday again, always a positive. And oh, by the way, where are we? Month end, month beginning. So bonds were rolling over. We're trading the March contract now. So keep that in mind. Those have begun trading. So we've rolled over. They roll over a little bit differently than the financial, the NASDAQ. Those we have to wait for another couple of weeks before you start trading the, the forward contract there in March, the H contract. So, but the H is already trading for the bonds. So that is something to look at. Just looking at the thickness of this profile, again, how we walked up, we broke hard, snap back, how I would expect it to behave. And there's going to be more news on the variants the rest of the week. And there'll be.
You mean the cron job's not over yet?
No, it's not over yet.
All right.
So again, don't be piggish. You can't be piggish on either side, up or down right now. I mean, when you move this big, take some profits for God's sake if you're on the long side. The other thing that, again, talking about all assets are one, we talked about this pre-gaming a little bit, and oil and natural gas got hammered also, right? So what changed from where we were, on crude? What took us from 85 just a couple weeks ago all the way down here into the 67 range on Friday. Again, this sold off hard. Has nothing to do with Biden releasing strategic reserves, because what he released is like a half a day's of volume. Give me a break.
And not only that, half of it's going to China. Let me tell you about China.
Right. So that broke, and it basically had a reaction half back. I mean, it went back to 73, but it has sold off again, went from 73 to 69s. Now it's just kind of in balance. Natural gas also got hammered, Bob. And with the cold weather going on in Europe, they again expected the cold weather to come over the weekend. It came. And I guess that's why natural gas prices had spiked Friday, but the spike Friday was huge. And we got up to new high on the recent move, and it was up to, I think, 552. But you can see, pulled back here, I like this buy. I think this is a great place to buy natural gas again down in here. When you puke here, you're making those longs that chase that new high. The breakout buyers, now they're puking down here, but it's a higher low. I like this area down in here, 485, 486, even down to 464. There's no reason for me not to continue to buy natural gas as long as 460 holds. It's the same story. And this is, we're just, winter starts here in 3 weeks. We're not even yet to winter. So I do think this is going to have an effect. And I think this is a decent, and again, you can see how it bounced right off the big, kind of some big levels there on the different time frames on natural gas. You saw how it hit that 550 almost on the button as I was scaling out at the different time frames. There it is on the top of and that's basically, going back to October. So it's a 2-month chart. Again, I think you have to be I'm more bullish oil than I was before. I was bearish when you were bullish. I'm now bullish.
Wait a second, and leave me out of it.
Well,
I was just saying Kramer.
Putin was long. Well, Kramer.
Putin,
if you would have said
Putin
Kramer, then I would have said. If you would have
Putin
told me it was
100.
Kramer, if you would have
now
said
we got
Kramer,
somebody saying $150 crude. Somebody out of Goldman, I believe.
Well, it's been cut in half from what they wanted, so they got to start talking about it again. I get it.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
All right, man. I have another little tweet here from Jesse Felder, and he said we had seen more than 1 trillion of equity issued last year.
That was 2020.
2020, and he said he thought they would never see those numbers again. Like it was such a blow off, so incredible to see that amount of IPO action. But lo and behold, as of Thanksgiving, we have 1.5 trillion. The big numbers aren't supposed to act like this.
Right.
They're really not. But
the interesting thing that Financial Times article brought up and Jesse quoted, that's not him speaking, is the article. I don't know who actually said those words. But the important thing to note there is half of the 1.5 is underwater. So I don't know what the numbers finished for 2020. I can't, maybe it was inside. You'd have to hit that link that Jesse posted to maybe get some deeper dive or do your own research. But the fact that half of the money that came public, so out of $1.5 million, over 750
$1.5 trillion, by the way, $1 trillion.
Excuse me, $1.5 trillion, over 750 billion is underwater. So that's a lot of money that is, basically been chasing these new issues that is not looking so strong right now. So you have to keep that in mind that, ultimately that's going to come to fruition, that probably that's probably a sign of, weakening of a future IPO market is what I would say.
I don't know. I just think about that. We've talked about it before, like the laws of large numbers. But if it's just keyboard numbers now, well, what's the fucking difference? There's no such thing as a large number anymore. If the Fed has zero, what is the word I'm looking for? It seems like there's no chance for them to fuck up this policy approach. There's no chance. Is there no chance?
It's not. That's what
I don't know. I mean, I thought like 1 trillion is a big number, and you're just gonna go up by 50% the next year. Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's just on the keyboards. It's not a problem. You just keyboard it in 1.5 trillion. Let's go to 6 trillion on the
By the way, coming back to the NASDAQ, this 1450 level, not only is it, nearing the 61 golden ratio, but it's also it was our original new high in the NASDAQ back here in November 5th. So this has the potential, I guess, of looking at a shallower right shoulder, if you will, as we test that area. So just keep this in mind. We're under the big, the uptrend has been broken. The point of control really is powerful unless you get over 1470. Then you might have some room to test that high. Again, 470 gives you another 300 points. If you get above it, I wouldn't be chasing it. But again, there's nothing coming. I mean, we've got nothing but Christmas now the rest of the year. So we got 3 solid weeks of trading. And then the last, basically the 16th is your last trading day. Today is November 29th. So you have 3 full weeks of trading for the 2021 calendar year. And as I said, the momentum, the trend, every which way you look at it long term has been, here it is, up. Hard to fade that into the end of the year. as we've said all along, the weekly held, here's that weekly chart. It bounced right where it should have actually on Friday. And so, again, we could see, I would not be surprised to see another, 17,000 print by the end of the year. Would not be surprised.
Yeah. When you see those numbers and the flows, and Goldman brought it up, the amount of flows that are coming in here year end are giant. Very, very hard to fade it.
Very hard.
All right, Matt. Fantastic show once again. You have yourself a great day, and we will be back tomorrow. MarketVitals.io is the website. Market Vitals is the stream. Please share, retweet, share it far and wide. And always, Matt, always be disciplined, trade disciplined. Do your own research. Make up your own mind on the risk. How about you start there? How about you start with the risk analysis first? It's what we like to do. All right, Matt, have a great one.
All right, Bobby. Thank you.